I never imagined that life could fall apart in a single moment. The letter I found at the bottom of the drawer felt like a bomb about to explode. The will seemed unfair, until I read the letter he left for me. I read and reread it, trying to understand the words that echoed in my mind. For years I was there, a silent pillar. My father always said that family was everything. I helped him every step of the way, at church meetings, at parties, always by his side. The smell of fresh coffee in the kitchen, the voices of my siblings around the table, all of it felt so safe to me. But even surrounded by love, I felt there was something no one saw. An emptiness. On that fateful day, when the news of his passing came, my world turned upside down. At the funeral, people gathered, crying and lamenting. But I was invisible. The pain I felt was right there, pulsing in my chest, but no one seemed to notice. And when the lawyer read the will, a deafening silence took over the place. He left everything to my brother. Everything. There was not a cent for me. I felt the ground disappear when I heard my name amid the murmur of discontent. She doesn't deserve anything, they said. Each word was like a stab, as if I hadn't been the one who was there, supporting, loving, while he fought his battles. And what did I get in return? Rejection, the humiliation in front of everyone. But there is something they did not know. That night, as everyone dispersed, I found the letter. A yellowed sheet with the handwriting I would recognize anywhere. If you are reading this, it's because I am no longer here. My heart raced. What could be in there, in every line? An untold story, a hidden truth. He spoke about the shadows surrounding our family, the lies everyone accepted as truth. And as I read, I realized that his choice was not about me, but about a legacy he did not want to be repeated. He wrote about his fears, his insecurities, how he felt suffocated by the expectations of being the leader of our community. And I realized that, behind that figure of authority, there was a man struggling against his own loneliness. I didn't leave anything for you because I knew that life is not measured by what we possess, but by who we are. At that moment, the anger I felt began to dissipate. He didn't exclude me because he didn't love me. He did it because he believed I was strong enough to move forward. He wanted me to build my own path, away from the shadows that enveloped our home. I learned that the true inheritance was not in possessions but in the lessons he left me. The injustice of the will turned into an invitation to freedom. God knows what's in everyone's heart, and I realized that the faith I'd always sought was there, in the acceptance of my own journey. It's worth reflecting on this. Sometimes what seems like unbearable pain can actually be a calling to rise up and seek what truly belongs to us. We have no control over what is given to us or taken away, but we can choose how to react. If this story touched you, remember, life is made up of challenges that shape us. Share this reflection with someone who needs to hear it. And may we always find the light amidst the shadows. I remembered all the times I felt invisible, even surrounded by people who claimed to be my friends, the conversations outside the church, the superficial smiles. All of that now sounded like distant echoes. The truth is that I had always been an invisible servant, the one who carried others' hopes and burdens without ever being noticed. The pain of that rejectio, and wasn't new. It had accumulated over the years like a storm ready to burst. The letter made me reassess everything I had lived. I asked myself, how many times had I set aside my dreams in the name of a loyalty that was never reciprocated? The smell of fresh coffee was still present in my memory, but now it was just a reminder of what I had sacrificed. The emptiness that once seemed small was now growing, and I realized that I had set aside my own value for the sake of an image that would never be recognized. As I walked home that night, the darkness seemed to reflect what I felt inside. The silence of the street echoed my insecurities. What did I really want? It wasn't just recognition, but the freedom to be who I am, without the chains of others' expectations. And, deep down, I knew I needed to dive into myself, instead of seeking validation from others. In the days that followed, the pain of rejection transformed into a silent fuel. I began to question what really mattered. If my father believed that I could move forward, why did I hesitate? The faith I had always sought outside the church was now consolidating within me. With every step I took, I realized that freedom wasn't something to be given to me, but something I needed to conquer. I started to explore what was beyond the walls of those meetings and services. Life outside the church was full of possibilities. I met people who shared their stories, their struggles, and their victories. I discovered that I was not alone. Others also carried their own wounds, and by listening to their narratives, I realized that pain is a universal language. Many times I found myself reflecting, if you have ever lived through something like this, you will understand what it is like to feel that love is conditional. The fresh coffee from the kitchen was now not only a symbol of commitment but also of a new beginning. I learned to cook, to dedicate myself to something I always wanted but never had the courage to explore. Each recipe became a manifestation of my own life. I was creating something, and it fulfilled me. However, the shadow of rejection still loomed. I still felt the weight of those words spoken at the funeral, the sense of being belittled. But now, instead of allowing it to define me, I use this pain as a reminder of what I no longer wanted to be. Every day, I strive to surround myself with people who saw my worth, who recognized my effort without expecting anything in return. It was in one of those new connections that I found a friend who understood my journey. She told me, "Your strength isn't in being accepted, but in accepting yourself." That phrase resonated within me. I didn't need my family's or community's approval to be whole. The acceptance I sought had always been in my heart, waiting to be recognized. With each new step, I felt the light of my own truth shining more intensely. The pain of rejection turned into a constant reminder that I am more than what others think. This journey wasn't just about liberation, but about self-discovery. And looking back, I realized that every tear, every moment of doubt, had shaped me into a stronger version of myself. And so, life began to reconfigure itself before me. I discovered new paths, new passions, and new truths. The injustice of the world became a symbol of my liberation, a necessary push away from the shadows to seek the light that had always been within me. I wasn't just reacting to the pain, but transforming it into a driving force. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who refuses to be invisible, a woman who rose from the ashes of rejection and decided to live her truth. Life is made of challenges, and I finally understood that each one of them is an opportunity for growth. It's worth reflecting on this. If what seemed like a condemnation turns into liberation, who are we to bind ourselves to the chains of pain? This journey taught me that there is power even in silence, and that true strength lies in embracing our wounds, not as marks of weakness, but as symbols of a struggle that shapes us. The freedom I sought was not in being recognized, but in recognizing myself. I realized that life has a strange way of teaching us lessons, even when we are not ready to hear them. As the days passed, the wounds began to heal, but the scars remained. Each of them told a story, and I learned to listen to them. I began to understand that the healing process is not linear. It is full of ups and downs, like an emotional roller coaster. And as much as I wanted to move forward, the shadow of the past still accompanied me. The memories of the funeral returned to my mind at unexpected moments. Sometimes, it was a song playing in the background. Other times, it was an offhand conversation that reminded me of the look of disdain from those who were there. But instead of letting it get me down, I used these memories as fuel. The pain turned into strength, and I finally understood that the rejection I had felt was not a reflection of my worth, but of others' inability to see beyond their own limitations. That was when I decided to connect with my own voice. I began to write. The words flowed like a river that, long dammed, finally found its way. I wrote about my experiences, about the pain, the rejection, and, most importantly, about the freedom I was beginning to taste. Each filled page was like a step taken toward my truth. And as I wrote, I realized I was not alone. Many women, just like me, were battling their own shadows, seeking a space where they could shine without fear. In one of those moments of reflection, I came across a support group that met weekly at a small cafe in the city. The environment was welcoming, and the soft light coming through the windows seemed to embrace each person there. The stories shared there were like mirrors. I saw fragments of my own life reflected in the experiences of the other women. Some spoke about family rejection, others about societal pressure, but they all had something in common: the search for acceptance and the right to be themselves. These meetings became a sanctuary for me. I felt alive, and with each story shared, the pain of rejection became a little lighter. One of the women, named Anna, touched me deeply. She had been through a situation similar to mine, and hearing her trembling voice talk about the pain she felt, I realized I was hearing the story I couldn't tell myself. We connected instantly, as if we were sister souls. united by the struggle and the search for recognition. Through Anna, I learned that vulnerability is a form of strength. Instead of hiding our scars, we should show them. Each wound is a part of who we are, and when we share them, we create a safe space for others to feel comfortable opening up as well. Our stories were like intertwined threads, forming a rich tapestry of experiences and emotions, and as we spoke, the pain became a distant echo, replaced by the hope that bloomed in our hearts. As the connection with those women deepened, I realized that life began to expand in ways I never imagined. With each meeting, I felt stronger, more confident. The fresh coffee that once symbolized sacrifice now became a symbol of renewal. I learned to celebrate small moments, like the smell of spices while cooking or the laughter shared with my new friends. Each little detail became a vital part of my new reality. However, the shadow of the past still whispered in my ears. In moments of solitude, I struggled against the thoughts of inadequacy that insisted on haunting me, but now, instead of being carried away by them, I confronted them. I repeated to myself that I was not less valuable because of others' opinions. With each affirmation, I felt a wave of empowerment. I was not an invisible servant, I was a woman with a voice and a purpose. As time went by, I started getting involved in projects that I was passionate about. I discovered my calling in writing and the art of storytelling. I wanted to give a voice to those who, like me, felt invisible. I started organizing storytelling events, where women could share their experiences without fear of judgment. The atmosphere was welcoming, and the energy that emanated from those gatherings was palpable. With each story told, a piece of the past unraveled, and the light of truth shone more brightly. These events became a refuge for many, a place where pain was transformed into strength. I saw tears of sadness turn into laughter of hope. The rejection that once tormented me now became a bridge that connected me with others. I was no longer alone in this journey. Life had taught me that, even in the darkest situations, there is always a possibility for rebirth. Every story I heard made me realize that pain is an intrinsic part of life, but it does not have to be the final chapter. On the contrary, it can be the introduction to a new narrative, a story of overcoming and reconnecting with oneself. With each event, I saw the transformation not only in myself but also in the women who shared their stories. Each account was a piece of the puzzle of life, and when we put them together, we created a clearer picture of our collective strength. Tears became a symbol of liberation, and laughter a sign that we were all on the path to healing. The pain that once separated us now united us in a deep and meaningful way. One afternoon, while organizing one of the meetings, Anna approached me with a serious look. "You have to hear Maria's story. She went through something that might inspire you even more." Maria was a woman who had lived in an environment of control and oppression, where her voice was never heard. When she finally decided to break away from family expectations, she faced a series of challenges that almost made her give up. But the strength she found within herself was contagious. As I listened to her story, I realized that each of us had an internal battle, and that by sharing them, we were creating a sacred space of compassion and empathy. Maria began her story with a tremor in her voice, but as she spoke, her courage became palpable. She described the moments when she felt weakest, but also the times when she discovered her own strength. "It was when I realized that I no longer needed anyone's approval," she said, "that I truly became free." Her words resonated with me, bringing to mind the memory of my own journey. In my mind, I thought, "Does this make sense to you?" And, in an instant, I realized that we were not just listening, but living each other's journeys. At the end of the meeting, when we all hugged each other, I felt that the connection we had created was stronger than any blood bond. There was a mutual understanding, an acceptance that transcended individual pain. I was no longer an invisible servant. I was part of a collective, a group of women who supported each other in their vulnerabilities and celebrated their victories. And in this environment of love and acceptance, my own voice began to grow even stronger in the days that followed. The idea of continuing to tell these stories became a clear goal for me. I wanted more people to hear about the struggles and triumphs that so many women face daily. Through a project I named Voices of Silence, I began documenting each woman's experiences. It was a space where we could go beyond the pain and explore the beauty of what it means to be a woman in a world that frequently tries to silence our voices. With the support of Anna and the other women in the group, we started planning a bigger event, a night of storytelling that would celebrate feminine strength. The enthusiasm was palpable, and the idea of gathering so many stories under one roof was exciting. With each meeting, more women joined us, bringing their experiences and struggles, along with their hopes and dreams. However, the shadow of the past was still present. Sometimes during meetings, I felt a pang of insecurity. The internal voice that told me I was still the invisible servant tried to come back. But now, instead of succumbing to these thoughts, I learned to confront them. I remembered my father's letter. He believed in me. And if he had the courage to let me follow my own path, I also needed to have that courage. On the eve of the event, while preparing the space, a wave of anxiety hit me. What if no one showed up? What if the stories didn't resonate? But then I remembered the women who had joined me on this journey. They were not just participants, they were part of a silent revolution. Like me, they were also seeking their own truth. On the night of the event, the space was illuminated, and the air was thick with anticipation. When the first woman took the stage and began to tell her story, the silence was absolute. Each word was like an echo of experiences shared. I saw tears, but also smiles. And as more women stood up, I felt that the pain was transforming into something powerful, something that united all of us. The energy of the room was contagious, the stories intertwined, forming a rich tapestry of struggles and achievements. I realized that the rejection that once hurt me was now one of the threads that connected our narratives. The pain had become a symbol of resistance, and that night, we were all together, not just as women, but as warriors. And, at the end of the night, when the last story was told and the applause echoed through the room, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. Tears streamed down my face. But they were not just tears of sadness. They were of profound relief, of a recognition that was finally present. Each of us had found a space to be heard, to validate our experiences and allow ourselves to be whole, without fear of being judged. After the event, as the women dispersed, I realized that something had changed within me. The feeling of invisibility that had accompanied me for so long was dissipating. The connection I created with each of them was like an invisible bond that united us, and I knew I was no longer alone on this journey. I decided that it was time to continue spreading this message, not just for myself, but for all the women who still felt like I once did, voiceless without space. In the following days, the idea of creating an online platform began to take shape in my mind. A place where stories could be shared, where women could meet and support each other, regardless of their experiences. I was filled with new energy. I began to dedicate myself to the project, creating a website that would allow others to share their narratives in a safe and welcoming environment. With each word typed, I felt that I was not just building a platform, but also a legacy. However, the echoes of the past still insisted on accompanying me. Sometimes, in moments of solitude, I found myself battling the doubt trying to tear me down. "You're not good enough," said a little inner voice. But instead of letting myself be carried away by those thoughts, I confronted them, reminding myself of the strength I had found in the shared stories. Each tale of struggle and overcoming that I listened to reminded me that I was not defined by what others thought of me, but by what I was finally starting to believe about myself. With each new story that arrived on the platform, I felt my heart warm. Women of different ages and backgrounds began to connect, and the community that was forming was something I had never imagined. Each account was a testimony of courage, proof that pain could be transformed into power. I knew that we were creating something special, something that could impact lives and help other women find their own voices. It was in this context that I met Clara, a woman who approached me after one of the meetings. She was hesitant, but there was something in her eyes that told me she had a powerful story to tell. When she finally opened up, she shared her experiences of emotional abuse and how, for years, she felt trapped in a relationship that made her doubt her worth. Her voice trembled, but there was a determination in her words that touched me deeply. "I just want other women to know that they are not alone," she said. Of course not. No one was alone. The connection with Clara was instantaneous. We began working together, and she became one of the most active contributors to the platform. Together, we decided to organize a storytelling event specifically focused on experiences of overcoming abusive relationships. The idea was to give a voice to those who, like Clara, had suffered in silence and were now ready to share their truths. The event quickly became a healing space where vulnerability was celebrated and strength was acknowledged. As the date of the event approached, I realized that my own journey was intertwining with Clara's and with all the women joining us. It was a continuous cycle of support and love, where each one contributed to help the other. I felt like part of a chain, where each link was made of stories of pain, but also of resilience and hope. On the night of the event, the atmosphere was electrically charged, the women gathered, and the energy was palpable. When Clara took the stage and began to tell her story, the silence in the room was profound. I watched her, admiring her courage, and realized that the pain that once imprisoned her was now being transformed into a powerful testimony of liberation. Every word she spoke was like a step toward healing, not just for her, but for all of us present. After her presentation, other women began to stand and share their stories. What happened in that room was a miracle. Tears of sadness mingled with laughter of liberation. When the last woman finished her narrative, the audience was on their feet, applauding and celebrating not just the stories, but the courage of each one who had exposed themselves. I felt enveloped in a collective embrace, a reminder that we were all part of something greater. The night ended, but the conversations and connections continued. Women who had not known each other before were now exchanging contacts, sharing promises of mutual support and friendship. I knew we were creating a movement, something that was still forming, and each of us had a fundamental role in this journey. It was as if we were all connected by an invisible thread, a bond of shared experiences that united us in a deep understanding of what it means to be a woman in a world that often tries to silence our voices. In the days following the event, the vibrant energy still lingered in the air. The messages of support and gratitude we received were overwhelming. Women who had participated began to speak out, sharing how their lives had been touched, how they had found the courage to face their own struggles. It was a powerful reminder that pain, when shared, transforms into collective strength. One morning, while having my coffee, I received a message from Anna. She was excited and invited me to a meeting with a group of women who wanted to collaborate on the next event. The idea was to further expand the Voices of Silence project, creating a space not only for storytelling but also for empowerment and self-help workshops. The invitation filled me with enthusiasm. With each new opportunity to grow and learn, I felt the purpose I had found becoming clearer. When I arrived at the meeting, the environment was filled with laughter and animated conversations. The women were full of ideas, sharing their visions of what the next step could be. Some suggested talks on self-esteem. Others spoke about the importance of mental health and how it intertwines with our life experiences. The connection between us was palpable, and I realized we were building something that could impact many lives. Together, we decided that the next event would be a conference, where each of us would have the chance to speak about our experiences and offer practical tools for healing and empowerment. The following weeks were a whirlwind of organization and planning. As we worked on the events details, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. The idea of bringing together so many voices and experiences under the same roof was both terrifying and liberating. I knew that the vulnerability we were about to expose could bring out intense emotions, but it would also be an opportunity for healing for many. In the days leading up to the event, I found myself reflecting on my own journey once again. The scars I carried, the experiences that shaped who I am, seemed lighter now. I had learned to dance with the pain, to transform it into a driving force. And, as I looked at the women around me, I realized that each of them had their own story of overcoming. It was a moment of celebration, a tribute to the resilience that dwells in each of us. Finally, the day of the conference arrived. The venue was stunning, decorated with flowers and soft lights that created a welcoming atmosphere. The nervousness was present, but along with it was a wave of anticipation. When the first participants started to arrive, my heart filled with joy. There were women of all ages and backgrounds, each bringing with them the baggage of their own story. As soon as the event began, I couldn't hold back the tears. The stories shared were profound and touching. Each account resonated with pain and struggle, but also with hope and transformation. Women who stood up to share their experiences of abuse, rejection, and overcoming. It was as if every word spoken was a step towards healing, not just for them, but for all of us who were there listening. A woman stood out, her voice firm and clear. She spoke about how she found the strength to leave an abusive relationship and rebuild her life. As she shared her journey, I saw tears in the eyes of many participants, The pain and struggle were tangible. And at the same time, there was a sense of liberation in the air. It was as if, with each story shared, we were breaking invisible chains that held us to the past. When it was my turn to speak, I felt a knot in my stomach. But looking at those women, I realized that I was not alone. The vulnerability I shared was not just mine, it was all of ours. I talked about my father's letter, the pain of rejection, and how it transformed into a quest for my own voice. With each word that came out, I felt that I was releasing not just my story but also the stories stuck in the throats of so many other women. At the end of the event, when the last story was told, the room was filled with applause and tears of joy. What began as a place of pain transformed into a sanctuary of hope and empowerment. The women embraced, exchanged contacts, and made promises of mutual support. I realized that we were creating not just a support network but a movement that could continue to grow and expand. In the days that followed, I received messages from many participants eager to get involved. To get more actively involved in the movement we were creating. They were ready to share their stories but also to help other women find their voices. This desire for connection filled me with hope and made me realize that together, we could create something much bigger than I had ever imagined. One of the women who stood out was Sophia. She sent me a message full of enthusiasm, sharing how the conference had inspired her to start a small support group in her community. "I want to do something to help other women who feel lonely like I did," she said. Those words touched my heart, and I immediately realized that each of us had the potential to be an agent of change. With the support of Anna, Clara, and other participants, we decided to organize a meeting to discuss how we could expand the Voices of Silence project to include support groups in different communities. The idea was simple but powerful: to create a space where women could gather, share their experiences, and offer mutual support. With each new idea that emerged, we felt the energy intensify, as if we were lighting a flame that could illuminate many lives. In that meeting, while discussing the possibilities, I couldn't help but think of all the voices that were still silenced. What worried me most was that many women did not have access to these opportunities and still felt invisible even amid a forming community. It was with this drive that we decided our next step would be to create an online platform so these voices could also be heard. The project began to take shape quickly. With the help of some women who had experience in technology and design, we started working on a website that would be a safe space for women to share their stories and receive support. The enthusiasm was palpable, and as the project progressed, I felt a wave of gratitude. It was incredible to see how the pain that once isolated me was now transforming into a support network. While we were working on the site, I decided it was time to share my own story more broadly. I knew that, to inspire other women to open up, I would need to be vulnerable and show that I too had faced my battles. With this in mind, I wrote an article about my father's letter, the pain of rejection, and how it led me to find my own voice. At the end of the text, I invited other women to share their stories on the platform we were creating. The day the site was launched was a milestone. I remember the feeling of nervousness and excitement as I pressed the publish button. I knew we were taking a huge step towards creating a community that could change lives, and to my surprise, the stories started coming in quickly. Women of different ages and backgrounds began sharing their experiences, and the diversity of narratives was inspiring. One afternoon, while reviewing the submitted stories, I found one that deeply affected me. It was about a woman named Beatrice, who had faced years of emotional abuse in a relationship. Her words were raw and sincere, and I felt an immediate connection to her pain. As I read her account, I realized that, like me, she was also seeking a space to break free from the chains that bound her. I decided to reach out to her and offer my support. When we met, Beatrice shared more about her story and how the pain had led her to a dark place, but at the same time, there was a spark of hope in her eyes. She wanted to help other women recognize that they were not alone in their struggles. Together, we decided that her story would be a centerpiece in promoting the site, highlighting the importance of sharing experiences for healing. As more stories were published, I realized that the platform was becoming much more than a space to tell stories. It was a place of empowerment and transformation. Women were connecting in ways I'd never imagined. Some started meeting in person, forming bonds that extended beyond the virtual realm. The energy of support and solidarity that permeated the group was palpable. And I knew we were creating a true movement. The feedback we received was thrilling. Women shared how they felt touched by the stories they read, how they found the courage to face their own realities, and often, how they decided to break away from toxic relationships. This response motivated me even more to continue, to find ways to expand our mission, and that's how the idea of promoting workshops and lectures came about. We wanted women not only to hear each other's stories, but also to learn practical tools to empower and heal themselves. I invited some mental health and female empowerment specialists to join us. The enthusiasm was contagious, and with each new collaboration, we felt we were building something significant. The first series of workshops was yet another milestone in our journey. The day of the first workshop arrived, and I was filled with anticipation and nervousness. The space was set, with flowers and posters that reflected the message of empowerment we wished to convey. As the participants began to arrive, a warmth filled my heart. Each face that appeared brought with it a unique story, and I knew we were about to create something magical. The first facilitator, a psychologist named Laura, began her presentation with an activity that involved everyone. She asked each woman to introduce herself and briefly share what she hoped to gain from the day. The responses were exciting and revealing. Some talked about the search for self-knowledge, others about the need to break free from toxic relationships. And in each account, I felt the energy in the room intensify. It was as if each voice was joining in a chorus of hope. Laura, with her wisdom and empathy, led the conversation about self-esteem and self-worth. She highlighted the importance of recognizing our own stories, not as marks of pain, but as testimonies of strength. What touched me the most was when she said, "You are the authors of your own narrative. No one can take that away from you." That statement echoed within me, and I realized that everyone there was beginning to rewrite their own story. After the first part of the workshop, we divided the participants into smaller groups for more intimate discussions. I joined one of these groups, and when it was my turn to speak, I shared about my father's letter and how it had changed my life. I felt a wave of relief as I exposed my vulnerability. The women around me listened attentively, and some even got emotional. One of them, named Fernanda, said, "I also felt invisible in my family. Your story reminds me that I am not alone." And, at that moment, I realized we were creating a safe space where authenticity flourished. As the workshop progressed, the stories began to flow. Each woman felt more comfortable sharing her experiences, and I saw tears of sadness transform into laughter of liberation. By the end of the meeting, the participants were more connected than ever. Some exchanged phone numbers, promising to meet again. I knew we were forming bonds that would extend beyond that day. In the following days, I received messages from several participants who were eager to know when the next workshop would be. The energy and support we created that day were palpable, and I was determined to keep that flame alive. With the help of Anna and Clara, we began planning a series of workshops, each focusing on different themes such as self-care, financial empowerment, and mental health. Meanwhile, the Voices of Silence website continued to grow, with each new story published. I felt that we were strengthening a movement. Women were coming together not only to share their experiences but to support each other. We started receiving messages from women who, even from afar, felt touched by the stories they read. One of them, named Juliana, reached out and expressed her desire to start a support group in her own city. This made me realize that the transformation was spreading like wildfire. With each new initiative, my heart filled with hope. It was as if a cycle of healing was forming, and that motivated me to keep going. An idea that began as a response to pain was becoming a platform for empowerment and transformation. However, the shadow of the past still tried to haunt me, sometimes in moments of solitude. The inner voice that questioned my worth would resurface. But looking at all those women who were coming together, I remembered the strength I found in their stories and stood back up. One night, while reflecting on all we had experienced, I decided it was time to take a bigger step and organize a larger event. I wanted to create a conference that would bring together all the women who had participated in the workshops and the website, a space where we could collectively celebrate our stories. With this goal in mind, I began working on the event structure, looking for a suitable venue and inviting speakers who could further inspire our community. The response was overwhelming. Many women volunteered to collaborate, share their experiences, and even help with the organization. The energy of support was contagious. And I realized that we were forming something that could impact lives in a way I had never imagined. The event was becoming more than just a conference. It was a celebration of female strength, a moment to unite and acknowledge our victories. As the day approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. The venue was ready, with every detail thoughtfully designed to create a welcoming and inspiring environment. When the doors opened and the women began to arrive, my heart filled with joy. The space was vibrant, illuminated by smiles and warm embraces. Each woman who entered brought a piece of her story, and I felt that we were about to create something truly special. The atmosphere was infused with an energy that pulsed, as if each heartbeat echoed the hope that together, we were stronger. When the conference began, a wave of emotions washed over me. The speakers were women who, like us, had faced adversities and found their voices. Each one shared not only their stories but also the lessons they had learned along the way. I applauded each account, feeling that the pain and struggles of each one were a reflection of my own experiences. It was as if we were all in a sacred circle, united by an invisible thread of understanding and empathy. There were moments of profound silence, where words touched the soul deeply, and others where laughter echoed, creating a space of lightness and celebration. One woman, while sharing her story of overcoming challenges, said, "Pain shaped me, but it didn't define me." That phrase resonated with me like a mantra. I knew that each one of us had the capacity to rewrite her narrative, and that was liberating. During the breaks, conversations were buzzing. The women connected, exchanged experiences, and encouraged each other. It was spectacular to see how vulnerability created such deep bonds. A young woman named Livia approached me, her eyes shining with emotion. "I never thought I would find a place where I could be heard like this," she said, and at that moment, I realized that we were creating a safe space where every voice could be valued. When it was my turn to speak, a flutter of nerves gripped me, but as I looked at the audience, I saw faces reflecting understanding and support. I shared the story of my father's letter and how it led me to discover my own strength. I talked about how the pain of rejection turned into a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Tears streamed down my face, but they weren't just of sadness. They were of relief and gratitude for finally finding a space where I could be authentic. At the end of my story, a wave of applause rose, and I felt I had touched something deep within those women. The connection was palpable, and I knew that we were all together on this healing journey. The event was not just about telling stories, it was about creating a movement, a call to action. And as I looked at the audience, my heart filled with hope. We were a community, and together, we could make a difference. After the presentations, we decided to open a space for other women to stand up and share their stories. The room was charged with anticipation, and I knew that shared vulnerability was a powerful tool for transformation. When the first woman stood up, the silence was profound. Every word that came out of her mouth was a testament to courage, and I realized that we were all contributing to a tapestry of strength and resilience. As more women stood up, the energy in the room intensified. Each story was an echo of pain, but also of overcoming. I saw the faces of each one of them light up as they spoke, and realized that we were writing a new chapter together. The pain that once separated us was now becoming a link. That before you leave, do two things now. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive the next messages. And share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. To continue, watch the next video. It is already in the cards and also in the description.